Good morning, my dear student. Today our class is on blood supply of central nervous system, blood supply of CNS. So previously we have completed white matter of the brain. Before that, gray matter of the brain. Before that, we have gone into the diencephalon structures. So in that order, we are coming from below upwards. We are coming in that order. Now the blood supply of central nervous system. This is the class. At the end of this section, at the end of this class, you must be able to know what is the clinical significance. Describe the blood supply of brain and discuss its clinical significance. What is the clinical significance of blood supply of brain? Describe the formation of circular veins and discuss its functional and clinical significance. Describe the cerebral veins and describe the anatomical base of subdural hemorrhage. Describe the blood-brain barrier and enumerate sites where it is absent. So 1, 2, 3, 4 criteria. You must know the blood supply of brain and discuss its clinical significance. Describe the formation of circular veins and discuss its functional and clinical significance. Now, describe the cerebral veins and describe the anatomical base of subdural hemorrhage because that is caused by the cerebral veins. So, and describe the blood-brain barrier and enumerate sites where it is absent. So, you must know all these criteria at the end of this session. You must be able to answer it. Now, let us coming into the first one. Describe the blood supply of brain and discuss its clinical significance. So, in the entire body, the brain is highly active one. The brain is highly active one. It is continuously working. It is continuously working. To work continuously in an active manner, highly active manner, the blood supply of the brain must be continuous and it should not be interrupted at any time. And it should not be interrupted at any time. So, let us take the weight of the brain, that is approximately 1/50th of the entire body weight. The brain weight is only 2%. So, this 2% of brain present in the human body takes approximately 20% of cardiac output and 20% of regular oxygen taken by the human being. So, only weight, when compared with weight, the brain is only 2% for the body weight, but it takes 20% of the cardiac output and it has got continuous oxygen supply of 20%. So, cardiac output 20%, oxygen supply 20% of the total body oxygen consumption, brain consumes it, but here the brain works with little amount of energy. So, a little energy is more than enough for the brain to work when compared with all other organs. So, other organs, for example, heart function, cardiac contraction and others. So, anything, any muscle contraction, it needs more glucose. But when compared with all of these things, the brain will utilize only a small amount of energy. So, that is sufficient. So, if you read for a continuous period, your calories won't waste much. So, with minimum expenditure of calories, if you read it for a continuous time, long time, you will utilize your brain for a major time with only small amount of energy expended by your body. That is the mechanism present in the brain. Now, the brain only utilizes the sugar, that is glucose. So, it cannot utilize the, no other sugars can be utilized by the brain except glucose. Now, if the blood supply to the brain is stopped, that is only for a few seconds, but not for a more than few seconds. You will lose consciousness within 4 seconds. So, you will lose consciousness if the blood supply to the brain is ceased for a period of 4 seconds. So, if this cessation of blood supply to the brain is continued for 10 seconds, an irreversible damage starts. And an irreversible damage starts. irreversible damage starts. So first of all, if the blood supply to the brain is lost, for a few seconds only, within few seconds only, loss of consciousness occurs. Loss of consciousness occurs. For another few seconds, an irreversible damage starts. And if it is continued for more than within 10 minutes, so if the blood supply to the entire brain is lost, so the individual is declared as dead because the continuous blood supply to the brain is stopped. Death will occur invariably, no doubt. So that is the clinical significance of that is the significance why the blood supply of the brain must be continuous without interruption. Without interruption. To have this continuous blood supply to the brain, it has got a circular Willis, a polygonal formation. Polygonal formation. So a polygonal formation that is called circular Willis, an arterial arcade. In arterial arcade, circular villus is present at the base of the brain, especially in interpeduncular system. So the circular villus is formed by internal carotid arteries and vertebral arteries, and it is present at the base of the brain. It is an arterial arcade, polygonal in shape, present in the interpeduncular fossa, in the interpeduncular system, at the base of the brain. Now the blood supply is there. Blood supply to the brain is there. Now venous drainage for the brain is also there. So the blood supply to the brain is there and venous drainage is also there. They are called cerebral veins. So subdural hemorrhage is caused by the rupture of a cerebral vein. So the cerebral veins receive the blood from the brain. So they are all goes to the internal jugular veins, right internal jugular vein and left internal jugular vein. So the venous drainage from the brain goes into the internal jugular veins, right cerebral, right internal jugular vein and left internal jugular vein. The subdural hemorrhage is caused by the damage of the cerebral vein, especially bridging veins. So that is the clinical significance. Now, what is the blood-brain barrier and enumerate sites where it is absent? So there is certain mechanisms which allows only certain things from the blood into the brain, but does not whole blood into the brain. So a selective permeability of contents of the blood into the brain is there. This is maintained by the blood-brain barrier, BBB. So it is present in particular sites of the brain, but it is not present throughout the entire brain. So you must know the blood-brain barrier because the blood-brain barrier is essential to prevent the whole entry of whole blood into the brain, intracerebral mass. So this blood-brain barrier mechanism is there. So all the blood circulation in the brain is in a closed, compact circulation methodology is there in the brain because it is highly active organ in the entire body and its function is continuous. It cannot tolerate loss of blood supply even for a few seconds, and irreversible damage occurs within 10 seconds and complete loss of life occurs, complete death, brain death occurs. So if it is continued for a period of 10 minutes, that time even 10 minutes is a very long time. So 10 minutes is a very long time. So when you become a full-fledged doctor, you have to assess the brain is functioning or stopped. So brain death, cardiac death. So you have to assess the function of the heart. You have to assess the function of the brain. So when heart function is stopped, when brain function is stopped, then only you will give a certificate that the patient is dead. So that is the clinical significance of brain and blood supply of the brain and its clinical significance. Now the cerebrovascular accidents. Now let us going into the cerebrovascular accidents. The cerebrovascular accidents are the third most common cause of death. Cerebrovascular, blood supply to the brain, vascular system. Cerebrovascular system, cerebrum is called brain. Vascular means blood supply. So cerebrovascular accidents is the third most common cause of death in your clinical practice. So it itself indicates you must know very well about the blood supply of the brain. So which particular artery is damaged, which particular vein is damaged, or where there is specific quartus embolus is present in a particular artery involving a particular artery. So straining, supplying the particular part of brain. So signs and symptoms are produced. Definite signs and symptoms are produced. So by observing the definite signs and symptoms in a patient, if he comes to your OP, you can identify where the lesion is there. Now, all the cerebrovascular accident, you can call it as now thrombus formation and embolus formation, embolus, thrombosis, embolism, and rupture, hemorrhage. So, when any blood vessel is ruptured, it causes hemorrhage. So, blood vessel in the brain, if they are ruptured, they causes hemorrhage. Now, thrombus formation, embolus formation, and hemorrhage that is caused by the rupture. These three are grouped as single one, that cerebrovascular accident. So, cerebrovascular accident is a one term. So, it covers thrombus formation, it covers embolus formation, it covers hemorrhage, rupture of a blood vessel, and brain blood enters into the intracerebral hemorrhage. That is hemorrhage. So, cerebrovascular accident is the third most common cause of death. That is your clinical significance. It is caused by, it may be caused by thrombus formation, it may be caused by an embolus formation, it may be caused by a rupture. So, out of the three, thrombus formation, embolic formation, and hemorrhage, the thrombus formation is the most common cause. So, cerebrovascular thrombosis is the most common cause of cerebrovascular accidents. So, thrombosis is the most common cause of cerebrovascular accidents when compared with embolism and rupture of blood vessel. Now, the brain is supplied by paired internal carotid artery and a vertebral arteries. There are two vertebral arteries. So, brain is supplied by paired internal carotid arteries and vertebral arteries. So, you can divide the blood supply of the brain by carotid system and vertebral system. So, the internal carotid arteries and vertebral arteries, they supply the blood to the brain by an extensive system of branches. These branches unite to form the arterial arcade polygonal in shape, that is circular Willis, present at the base of the brain, in the interpeduncular fossa, in the interpeduncular cistern, in the interpeduncular cistern. So, circular Willis is a arterial arcade polygonal in shape, present at the base of the brain, in the interpeduncular fossa, in the interpeduncular cistern, in the interpeduncular cistern. Brain is supplied by paired internal carotid arteries and vertebral arteries and a paired vertebral arteries by an extensive system of branches. So, carotid system of brain, blood vessels, and vertebral system of blood vessels supply the brain. So, once again, I am telling you, the right half of the brain and left half of the brain, the right half of the blood supply of the brain and left half of the blood supply of the brain. There is little or no more mixing of blood supply of the right half of the brain with the left half of the brain. So, left half of the brain. Little or no mixing of blood from the right half to the left half, because the arterial arcade is formed in such an extent. But if there is an occlusion of arterial circle, so any artery is occluded, reverse flow, that is traffic diverts. So when you are going in a way, when it is obstructed, you will set for another route like that. If an arterial arcade, one part of the arterial arcade, circular Willis. So arteries forming the circular Willis, if anyone is occluded by far, then an alternate route occurs. This is traffic circle. So occurs. This is more essential for continuous blood supply of the brain. Then mixing of the right side of the blood or the brain, circular Willis, with the left side of the brain blood, in the left side of the blood, in the present in the left vertebral and carotid system of circular villi will take place until that little or no mixing of blood of right side and left side occurs in the brain. The brain is supplied by circular villis. An arterial arcade is present at the base of the brain, in the interpeduncular fossa, in the interpeduncular system. It is formed by the union of paired internal carotid arteries and vertebral arteries by an extensive system of branches. That you must know. Two vertebral arteries unite to form the basilar artery. Two vertebral arteries unite to form the basilar artery at the lower border of the pons. At the lower border of the pons, it goes in front of the sulcus present on the pons. So basilar artery is present in that sulcus. So that is why it is called basilar sulcus. Then at the upper border of the pons, the basilar artery divides into two posterior cerebral arteries. Before that, basilar artery gives certain branches. They are branches of the basilar artery. Internal carotid artery ends in the region of the anterior perforated substance into large middle and small anterior cerebral artery. Internal carotid artery ends in the region of the internal anterior perforated substance into large middle and small anterior cerebral artery. Now I want to show you the diagram of circular villis. Now this is one vertebral artery, this is another vertebral artery, united here, united to form the basilar artery. Goes, this is present in the sulcus of the pons, present on the anterior aspect of the pons. Then it divides into posterior cerebral artery and posterior cerebral artery. This is the internal carotid artery present in the anterior perforated substance, divides into a large middle cerebral artery and a small anterior communicating artery and a small anterior cerebral artery. So the middle internal carotid artery enters into the anterior perforated substance and divides in the anterior perforated substance into a large middle cerebral artery which is contiguous to the internal carotid artery, and a small anterior cerebral artery goes into the middle of the brain. So goes anteriorly and it communicates with the fellow of the opposite anterior cerebral artery on the left side by means of a small anterior communicating artery and a small anterior communicating artery. So this is the one vertebral artery and another vertebral artery unites here to form the basilar artery. The basilar artery is formed at the lower border of the pons. Then it goes in the anterior part of the pons in the basilar sulcus, because the sulcus present on the anterior part of the pons is called basilar sulcus because basilar artery rests in it. So it divides at the upper border of the pons into two posterior cerebral arteries. Now the middle cerebral, the internal carotid artery, before dividing into anterior cerebral artery and middle cerebral artery. So this is the internal carotid artery. So this is the anterior cerebral artery. This is the middle cerebral artery, large middle cerebral artery, contiguous to internal carotid artery. Before dividing into two, it gives a branch that is posterior communicating artery that is communicates with the posterior cerebral artery. So that's why the circular villis is formed. That's why the circular villis is formed. Now you can study branch of the basilar artery, branch of the posterior cerebral artery, branch of the middle cerebral artery, branch of the anterior cerebral artery. So anterior cerebral artery, middle cerebral artery, posterior cerebral artery, three arteries on one side and three arteries on another side supply the brain. So this entire polygonal shaped circular villis is present at the base of the brain in the perforated substance in the interpeduncular fossa, in the interpeduncular system, This entire one is present at the base of the brain. This entire one is present at the base of the brain. So this is the formation of circular villis. So Two vertebral arteries unite to form the basilar artery at the lower ball of the pons. Basilar artery divides at the upper ball of the pons into posterior cerebral arteries. So the internal carotid artery in the anterior perforated substance divides into large middle cerebral artery and a small anterior cerebral artery, which goes and unites with the opposite anterior cerebral artery by means of anterior communicating artery. So the internal carotid artery, before it divides into anterior cerebral artery and middle cerebral artery, is a posterior communicating artery, communicates with the posterior cerebral artery, a branch of the vertebral basilar artery. So that's why this hexagonal circle is formed. You see how this hexagonal circle is formed. This is the formation of circular release. So major arteries involved in the formation of circular release is two vertebral arteries unite to form the basilar artery, then divides into posterior cerebral artery. So internal carotid artery divides into small anterior cerebral artery and a large middle cerebral artery. Anterior communicating artery connects the two anterior cerebral arteries across. Now, the posterior communicating artery arises before the division of internal carotid into anterior cerebral and middle cerebral and communicates with the posterior cerebral artery. That's why a circular village, an arterial arcade is formed at the base of the brain that is present in the interpeduncular fossa, that is present in the interpeduncular fossa in the interpeduncular system. So this is the major arteries forming the circular village. This is the major arteries forming the circular village. This is it. So no mixing. Right half is supplied by right internal carotid, right vertebral artery, and vice versa. Left half is supplied by the left internal carotid, left internal carotid, left vertebral artery, vice versa. So the vertebral system of brain, system of blood supply to the brain, internal carotid system of blood supplies to the brain. Now once again I want to tell you, vertebral artery is a branch. Now this is the internal carotid artery. Common carotid artery divides into external carotid and internal carotid artery. Now a vertebral artery arises from the subclavian artery. Vertebral artery arises from the subclavian artery, goes through the foramen transverse area of the C6 and foramen transverse area of the C5, foramen transverse area of the C4 up to the C1. So at this level, it goes backwards, turns backwards and upwards and unites with the opposite side to form the basilar artery. How the vertebral artery goes backwards and turns upwards and unites with the opposite vertebral artery at the lower ball of the pons to form the basilar artery. Now this internal carotid artery goes into the brain with her. So internal carotid artery never gives any branch in the neck. Only external carotid artery gives branches in the neck. Internal carotid artery gives blood supply to the brain is from internal carotid artery, but not from external carotid artery. Why I am telling exceptions also? Because here there is no exception. Internal carotid artery never gives any branch in the neck region, and external carotid artery supplies the outside the brain. So internal carotid artery only confined to the brain. So vertebral artery course I have to tell you. Vertebral artery is a branch of subclavian artery. It resides in the foramen transverse area of upper 6 cervical vertebra. It winds round the lateral mass of atlas. It pierces atlanto-occipital membrane. Because atlas is the first cervical vertebra present at the base of the skull. Base of the skull is occipit. So between the atlas and occipit, an atlanto-occipital membrane is there. So it has to pierce the atlanto-occipital membrane to enter the brain. Then it enters the posterior cranial fossa through the foramen magnum. Two vertebral arteries unite at the lower bone of the pons to form the basilar artery. Because pons is also present within the skull. Because outside the skull, in the vertebral part, spinal cord is there. It is cervical spinal cord is there. So pons is present in the brain is skull itself, within the skull itself. So vertebral artery is a branch of subclavian artery is ascends in the foramen transverse area of the upper six cervical vertebra. It winds round the lateral mass of atlas. It pierces atlanto-occipital membrane, then enters the posterior cranial fossa through the foramen magnum. Two vertebral arteries unite at the lower part of the pons to form the basilar artery. Branch of cranial part of vertebral artery: anterior spinal artery, posterior spinal artery, posterior inferior cerebellar artery, meningeal branches, medullary branches. Once the vertebral artery enters into the skull by piercing the atlanto-occipital membrane, it becomes cranial part. Before that, it is a cervical part. Up to here, it is cervical part. From here, it is cranial part. What are the branches of the vertebral artery in the cranial part? That is, these are the branches: anterior spinal artery, posterior spinal artery, posterior inferior cerebellar artery, meningeal branches, medullary artery. Once again, I am telling you, my dear students, when I am starting the class, only 78 members has entered into the class. Only 78 members have entered into the class. I don't know what is the problem in you in hearing the online classes. Your attendance is low. You have to rectify it. So, anterior spinal artery, posterior spinal artery, posterior inferior cerebellar artery, meningeal branches, and medullary arteries are the arteries of the vertebral artery, cranial part of the vertebral artery. Basilar artery formed by union of vertebral artery, ascends in basilar sulcus that is present on the anterior aspect of the pons, terminates at the upper wall of the pons by dividing into right and left posterior cerebral arteries. Already I told you, I have shown you in the circular pictures. Now branch of the basilar artery: pontine branches, anterior inferior cerebellar artery, labyrinthine artery, superior cerebellar artery, posterior cerebral artery. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I will show you in the basilar artery. What are the branches? So these are the pontine branches. This pierce the pons and supply blood to them. This is superior cerebellar artery. This is anterior inferior cerebellar artery. That is labyrinthine artery. 1, 2, 3, 4. So already I told you, this is one: superior cerebellar artery, inferior cerebellar artery, pontine branches, and anterior inferior cerebellar artery. These are the branches of basilar artery. Now, what are the branches of vertebral artery? I have told you. The vertebral artery gives a posterior inferior cerebellar artery. Sometimes posterior spinal artery arises from the vertebral artery. From the posterior inferior cerebellar artery. Sometimes it arises from the vertebral artery itself. Now these are the meningeal branches. These are the medullary branches supply the medulla. So vertebral artery branches. So anterior spinal artery is formed by union of branches from two vertebral arteries to form the anterior spinal artery. It descends in the anterior. It descends in the fissure present on the anterior aspect of the spinal cord. An horizontal fissure. Now basilar artery, I have already told you. Pontine branches, anterior inferior cerebellar or labyrinthine artery, superior cerebellar or posterior cerebral artery. Already I show you in the diagram. Once again, you have to read it and see the arterial arcade of circular release. Then you can have it. Now basilar artery gives off temporal branches. They are anterior temporal branch, posterior temporal branch, parieto-occipital branch, and calcaneal branch. Basilar artery gives out temporal branches: anterior temporal branch, posterior temporal branch, parieto-occipital branch, and calcaneal branch. Carotid system. Internal carotid artery is the terminal branch of common carotid artery. It traverses the carotid canal, enters the middle cranial fossa. Basilar artery, vertebral artery enters the posterior cranial fossa. Internal carotid artery enters the middle cranial fossa. Underneath the anterior perforated substance, it ends by dividing into a large middle cerebral artery and a small anterior cerebral artery. Already I show you the diagram of circular bellies in the next slide 15. Clinical correlation, carotid siphon. The intracavernous and supracavernous course of internal carotid artery forms a U-shaped bed, hairpin bed with convexity forward called carotid siphon. So the intracavernous and supracavernous course of the intracavernous and supracavernous, now cavernous sinus, carotid artery, intracavernous and supracavernous course of internal carotid artery forms a U-shaped bed, hairpin bed with convexity forwards called carotid siphon. Branch of cerebral part of internal carotid artery, ophthalmic artery, posterior communicating artery, anterior choroidal artery. Anterior choroidal artery, artery of cerebral thrombosis, due to its long subarachnoid course and relatively small lumen. It is the artery of cerebral thrombosis. The anterior choroidal artery is most susceptible to thrombosis and is often referred to as artery of cerebral thrombosis. If artery of cerebral thrombosis is given as a bit in your PG examination, if anterior choroidal artery is given, you have to mention anterior choroidal artery. So, susceptible to thrombosis, often referred to as artery of cerebral thrombosis. If in NEET examination, if what is the most common cause of cerebrovascular accidents? A, thrombosis, B, embolus, C is rupture. If they ask D, none of the above, then you have to show thrombus is the correct answer. Thrombus is the correct answer. This is a formation of bits in NEET examination. So, branch of the cerebral part of internal carotid artery, ophthalmic artery, posterior communicating artery, anterior choroidal artery, artery of cerebral thrombosis due to its long subarachnoid course and relatively small lumen. The anterior choroidal artery is most susceptible to thrombosis and is often referred to as artery of cerebral thrombosis. The anterior cerebral artery continues as precallosal artery. Anterior cerebral artery gives a large branch callosal marginal artery. So, these are the branches of the cerebral part of the internal carotid artery. Now, branch of the vertebral artery, branch of the basilar artery, branch of the cerebral part of internal carotid artery. So, you must know at least you must name the branch of vertebral artery, you must name the branch of basilar artery, you must name the branch of internal carotid artery. Now, middle cerebral artery, large terminal branch of internal carotid artery, it carries 30% of the carotid outflow. It carries 30% of the carotid outflow. Clinical correlation. Cerebral thrombosis most commonly affects middle cerebral artery. So, just previous I told you anterior choroidal artery because of its long course subarachnoid. Subarachnoid is more common. So, due to its long course, it is most common. Cerebral thrombosis most commonly affects middle cerebral artery. So, anterior choroidal artery is one bit and middle cerebral artery is one bit. So, if among one will be given, so then you have to choose the choice of answer which is present among the four. So, you have to choose the correct answer which is given. Usually, these two controversy answers are not given. So, if he says anterior choroidal artery, cerebral thrombosis, most common cause is anterior choroidal artery and middle cerebral artery, they won't give in such a manner. So, cerebral thrombosis or anterior choroidal artery, they will give it. If you name anyone, that is more than enough. So, this is the NEET examination. Arterial supply of cerebrum. Cerebrum is supplied by three pairs of cerebral artery. Anterior cerebral artery, middle cerebral artery and posterior cerebral artery. Anterior cerebral artery, middle cerebral artery and posterior cerebral artery. Cerebrum is supplied by three pairs of cerebral arteries, anterior, middle and posterior cerebral arteries. Anterior cerebral artery, middle cerebral artery, posterior cerebral artery. Now, cerebral part of ventral carotid artery, fourth part of vertebral artery, basilar artery. Branch of the main arteries of the brain. This is a table taken from your standard textbook. You go through it. All are given in this tabular form. Branching pattern of the cerebral arteries. 3 types of branches. So now we have given all the branching pattern of the cerebral arteries. Anterocerebral artery, middle cerebral artery, in posterior cerebral artery into cortical type, central type, and choroidal type. This is a gross classification. So that is an individual classification. Branches coming from the vertebral artery, branches coming from the basilar artery, branches coming from the internal carotid artery, branches coming from the middle cerebral artery. Like that we have given. Now the types of branches. Cortical branches, central branches, and choroidal branches. Cortical branches, again they are superficial and deep. Superficial supply the superficial part of the cortex. Deep branches supply up to the white matter. Central branches go into the internal parts of the brain, and choroidal branches, anterior choroidal artery and posterior choroidal artery. Cortical branches supply the outer parts of the cerebrum. Once they enter the cortex, they become end arteries. That means there is no anastomosis with the other artery. So it is an end artery. So there is no anastomosis. If an end artery is occluded, the blood supply to that area is lost. An end artery means the blood supply to an artery is lost. If the blood supply to that area which is supplied by end artery is occluded, blood supply to that area is lost because there is no anastomosis. 2 types. Short, confine themselves only to the cortex. Long, pass through the cortex and reach the outer portion of the white matter. Cortical branches supply the outer portion of the cerebrum. Once they enter the cortex, they become end arteries. 2 types. Short, confine themselves only to the cortex. Long, pass through cortex and reach the outer portion of the white matter. Central branches are perforating branches, supply the central part of the cerebrum, corpus striatum, internal capsule. Supply the corpus striatum, internal capsule. Now, cortical branches only up to the white matter. Short branches only to the cortex. Long branches pass through the cortex and reach the outer portion of the brain. Central branches, these are corpus striatum and internal capsule. They are parts of the white matter. So, central branches goes into the white matter, that is corpus striatum and internal capsule. Now, they are again divided into anteromedial group, anterolateral group, posteromedial group, and posterolateral group. So, one of the large lateral striate arteries most susceptible to rupture, known as artery of cerebral hemorrhage. So, Charcot artery of cerebral hemorrhage. So, what is Charcot artery? It is a branch. It is a large lateral striate artery. It is a large lateral striate artery. So, its rupture causes cerebral hemorrhage. Its rupture causes cerebral hemorrhage. Charcot artery, cerebral hemorrhage. Middle cerebral artery, thrombosis. Anterior choroidal artery, thrombosis. Charcot artery is nothing but lateral striate, large lateral striate artery is most susceptible for rupture. Why ruptures occurs? The blood vessel consists of tunica externa, tunica media, tunica interna. The tunica media contains muscular wall. If the tunica media is thin, dilatation occurs and aneurysm formation occurs and rupture occurs. So, if the tunica media, musculature in the tunica media is deficient, then rupture occurs. Now, central branches are anteromedial group, anterolateral group, posteromedial group, and posterolateral. Now, choroidal arteries form choroid plexus. That's why they are called choroidal arteries. Why they are called choroidal arteries? They form choroidal plexus. Anterior choroidal artery and posterior choroidal artery. Anterior choroidal artery and posterior choroidal artery. Now, arterial supply of the different surface of the cerebral hemisphere. Arterial supply of the different surface of the cerebral hemisphere. Now, lateral surface, most of the lateral surface is supplied by the middle cerebral artery. Most of the medial surface is supplied by the anterior cerebral artery. Most of the posterior surface is supplied by the posterior surface and inferior part is supplied by the posterior cerebral artery. So, lateral surface, so majority of the lateral surface, including premotor cortex and postmotor sensory area. Premotor cortex and motor area and sensory area and prefrontal area is supplied by the middle cerebral artery. So, majority of the blood supply to the brain is by the middle cerebral artery when compared with the anterocerebral artery and posterior cerebral artery. So, Middle cerebral artery also supplies the temporal pole of the temporal lobe. Also supplies the, this is yellow in color, this is blue in color, this is blue in color. This is the temporal pole of the temporal lobe. Most of the superolateral surface of the lateral surface of the brain is supplied by the middle cerebral artery. Frontal lobe, parietal lobe, and also a part of the temporal lobe is supplied by it. Now, anterior choroidal artery, this is the blue color, yellow color, this is the violet color. Anterior cerebral artery supplies the most of the medial surface of the brain and also the margin along the medial part of the brain, central feature of the brain. So, inferior surface, a margin on the inferior surface of the brain along the central feature of the brain is supplied by the anterior cerebral artery. So, anterior cerebral artery supplies the majority of the medial surface and also a margin on the orbital surface of the inferior surface along the margin of the central feature of the brain, that is supplied by one thing. So, majority of the occipital lobe, and also part of the temporal lobe is supplied by the posterior cerebral artery. So, this is the visual cortex area and secondary visual cortex area, and everything is supplied by the posterior cerebral artery. This is yellow in color. So, 2/3 of the brain is supplied by the middle cerebral artery. Majority of the brain is supplied by the middle cerebral artery. Remaining is supplied by the anterior cerebral artery and posterior cerebral artery. So, you know the blood supply of anterior cerebral, middle cerebral, and posterior cerebral. So, which area of the cerebrum is supplied by it? So, I had given it in a gross way. Most of the supralateral surface, about 2/3, is supplied by the middle cerebral artery. A narrow strip adjoining the lower part of the temporal lobe and occipital lobe are supplied by the posterior cerebral artery. Now, this is the blood supply. This is a diagram given in your standard textbook. This is a diagram given in your standard textbook. Arterial supply the medial surface. Most of the medial surface, anterior 2/3 is supplied by anterior cerebral artery. Temporal pole of the temporal lobe by middle cerebral artery. Occipital lobe by posterior cerebral artery. What I have told you in the lecture, that is present in the PowerPoint. What I told you in my lecture without seeing the PowerPoint, that is present in the PowerPoint. What I told you in the PowerPoint, in the lecture, that is present in the PowerPoint. If you miss my lecture, you are not able to follow it, you can go through the PowerPoint presentation. Now, this is the different colors. One color, and one color. Arterial supply the inferior surface. Most of the inferior surface except the temporal pole is supplied by the posterior cerebral artery. Lateral part of the orbital surface of the frontal lobe and temporal lobe are supplied by the middle cerebral artery. Medial part of the orbital surface of the frontal lobe is supplied by the anterior cerebral artery. The same supply is given in literature. Now, this is the occipital lobe. Inferior surface is supplied by the occipital. This is the temporal lobe. This is the middle cerebral artery. This is the anterior cerebral artery, different colors. How he has given. Posterior cerebral artery, middle cerebral artery. So, anterior cerebral artery, anterior cerebral artery. You see, this is anterior cerebral artery supply. You see, this is the middle cerebral artery supply. You see, this is the posterior cerebral artery supplying this part. So, by seeing this diagram and also posterior cerebral artery supplying yellow in color, middle cerebral artery supplying blue in color, anterior cerebral artery supplying violet in color. So, this is one diagram, a clear-cut diagram gives a clear-cut idea to follow my lecture and see the PowerPoint once again. Clinical correlation. Occlusion of anterior cerebral artery produces certain symptoms. Occlusion of middle cerebral artery produces certain symptoms. Occlusion of posterior cerebral artery produces some symptoms. Arterial supply of the other parts of the brain. Corpus striatum, internal capsule, central branch of the middle cerebral artery. Corpus striatum and internal capsule are supplied by central branch of the middle cerebral artery. Thalamus is supplied mainly by central branch of the posterior communicating, posterior cerebral and basilar arteries. So all parts of the brain has got blood supply. No part of the brain is devoid of blood supply. Now thalamus is supplied mainly by central branches of posterior communicating, posterior cerebral and basilar arteries. Midbrain is supplied by the posterior cerebral, superior cerebellar and basilar arteries. Pons is supplied by basilar, superior cerebellar, anterior inferior cerebellar arteries. Cerebellum is supplied by superior, anterior inferior cerebellar, posterior inferior cerebellar arteries. So cerebellum. Blood supply to the cerebellum is called as cerebellar arteries. They are superior, anterior, inferior cerebellar, posterior, inferior cerebellar arteries. Now, once again, I am showing you the formation of circular villis, polygonal anastomosis between the branches of internal carotid and basilar artery. Clinical correlation: cerebral angiography, carotid angiogram. If you inject a radio-opaque dye into the internal carotid artery, the image taken after injecting the drug is known as carotid angiogram. If you inject dye into the vertebral system, basilar artery, two vertebral arteries unite to form the basilar artery. The basilar artery divides to form the posterior cerebral artery, supplying majority of the occipital lobe. So, if you inject dye into the vertebral arteries, they will go through the basilar artery into the posterior part of the brain, that is occipital lobe, present in the posterior cranial fossa. That gives vertebral angiogram. So, if you inject dye into the carotid arteries and do the magnetic resonance imaging or CT, if you do the CT scan, that is called carotid angiogram. If you inject dye into the vertebral system of arteries and do angiogram, that gives a clear-cut picture of posterior lobe of the brain, the occipital lobe of the brain. That is called vertebral angiogram. That is called vertebral angiogram. So, if you inject a dye into the carotid artery gives middle cerebral artery and anterior cerebral artery. So, blood supply of the anterior cerebral artery and blood supply of the middle cerebral artery, which part of the brain is supplied, that will be visualized in carotid angiogram. So, you have to do two different angiograms, carotid angiogram and vertebral angiogram, to see the complete image of the blood supply of the brain. Because carotid system of veins and vertebral system of veins unite to form the circular villis. Veins of brain drain into intracranial journal venous sinuses. They open into internal. They are superior sagittal sinus, transverse sinus, and inferior sagittal sinus. So, venous drainage of brain. Veins of brain drain into the intracranial journal venous sinuses. They open into the internal jugular veins of the neck. Venous return does not follow the arterial pattern. You see the entire dissection of the human body, usually veins follow the artery. So, subclavian artery, subclavian vein. Internal jugular artery, internal carotid artery, internal. So, like that, internal jugular vein. So, venous pattern usually follows the arterial pattern. Whereas in brain, such following is not there. Such following is not there. Absence of muscular tissue, so the veins are involved. So, there is absence of muscular tissue in the cerebral vein, so they are involved. They open into internal jugular veins of neck. Venous return does not follow the arterial pattern. So, venous return, this is a peculiarity of venous drainage of blood supply of the brain. Blood supply means arterial supply and venous drainage. So, in other parts of the body, venous drainage follows the arterial supply, whereas in brains, venous drainage does not follow the arterial supply. It is a separate entity. The veins of brain comprise cerebral veins, cerebellar veins, and veins of brainstem. Cerebral veins are divided into external superficial veins and internal cerebral veins. External cerebral veins are divided into three groups: superior, middle, and inferior. Superior, middle, and inferior. External cerebral veins are divided into three groups: superior, middle, and inferior. Veins of brain comprise cerebral veins, cerebellar veins, and veins of brainstem. Cerebral veins are again divided into external superficial veins, internal deep cerebral veins. External cerebral veins are divided into three: superior, middle, and inferior. Basal vein of Rosenthal is formed at the base of the brain in the region of the anterior perforated substance by union of three veins: anterior cerebral, deep middle cerebral, straight veins. Basal vein of Rosanta is formed at the base of the brain in the region of anterior peripheral substance by the union of three veins: anterior cerebral, deep middle cerebral, and straight veins. Internal cerebral veins. So each internal cerebral vein is formed at the interventricular foramen of Monro by union of three veins. They are thalmostriate, septal, and choroidal veins. So three veins. So here basal vein is formed by three veins: anterior cerebral, deep middle cerebral, straight veins. So internal cerebral veins. Each internal cerebral vein is formed at the interventricular foramen of Monro by union of three veins: thalmostriate, septal, and choroidal veins. So great cerebral vein of Galen. Great cerebral vein is a single vein formed by the union of two internal cerebral veins. Formed by the union of two internal cerebral veins. It receives two basal veins to form a straight sinus. It receives two basal veins to form the straight sinus. Clinical correlation. Thrombosis of intracranial venous sinus. Say thrombus can occur in arterial blood. Thrombus can also occur in venous blood. So thrombus of intracranial venous sinus. Venous drainage in the different surface of the cerebral hemisphere. Supralateral surface is drained by superior cerebral veins, inferior cerebral veins, and middle cerebral veins. So this is the supralateral surface. Superior cerebral veins, inferior cerebral veins. Again, these form the superior sagittal sinus. This drains into transverse sinus, then superior bulbopetroral jugular vein, then goes into the internal jugular vein. This is the supralateral surface of the brain. Venous drainage of the supralateral surface of the brain. Venous drainage of inferior surface. So inferior cerebral vein. We have to study the blood supply of the brain by the arterial supply by means of surfaces, and also venous drainage by means of surfaces. That is the graph. Venous drainage of inferior surface by inferior cerebral vein. Venous drainage of the medial surface. Superior cerebral veins, inferior cerebral veins, some veins from posterior part drain into cerebral vein, anterior cerebral veins, the anterior part. So this is the venous drainage of the medial surface of the brain. This is the venous drainage of the. Whenever you see the section of the corpus callosum, that means it is nothing but sagittal section of the brain. That is medially, divided medially into two halves, right half and left half. Clinical correlation, subdural hemorrhage, types of intracranial hemorrhage. Blood-brain barrier. Blood-brain spinal cord needs stable environment to function. This is provided by semi-permeable barrier called blood-brain barrier. Blood-brain barrier consists of following: capillary endothelial cells, basement membrane, foot process of the astrocytes that adhere to the outer surface of the capillary wall. These three form the blood-brain barrier. Areas of brain divide a blood-brain barrier: pineal gland, posterior lobe of pituitary gland, tuber cinerum, wall of the supraoptic race of the third ventricle, area posterior at the lower end of the fourth ventricle, inferior wall of the pineal races, interventricular foramina. These are divide of blood-brain barrier. Then what is the clinical application of blood-brain barrier? Normally, the brain is not susceptible to entry of penicillin into it. If meningitis occurs, inflammation of the meninges occurs, the blood-brain barrier allows more penicillin to enter in the brain. So, more amount of penicillin is concentrated at the site of lesion. That's why the infection is cured. So, a blood-brain barrier permits penicillin whenever any damage to the brain occurs. The brain can be damaged by means of injury, or by means of infarction, or by means of hemorrhage. In such conditions, the blood-brain barrier becomes interrupted. It allows certain things to repair the brain. That is the function of the blood-brain barrier. That is the function of the blood-brain barrier. In Parkinson's disease, what is the treatment of choice for Parkinson's disease? Dopamine. But dopamine is not allowed into the brain because blood-brain barrier system. BBB does not allow the Parkinsonism. Only levodopa is allowed into the brain. So if you give levodopa, it goes into the brain. In the corpus striatum, it is converted into dopamine, and dopamine has got action on the Parkinsonism disease. L-dopa has no action, but blood-brain barrier does not allow the dopamine. If you give L-dopa, blood-brain barrier BBB allows the L-dopa into the bloodstream. It reaches the corpus striatum level, and it is converted into the dopamine, and it acts, replaces the deficiency of neurotransmitter. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter. If it is deficient in corpus striatum, Parkinsonism occurs. Treatment is L-dopa. L-dopa itself does not have action in Parkinsonism, but blood-brain barrier does not allow the dopamine, which has got action on corpus striatum to rectify the Parkinsonism deficiency. But L-dopa is allowed by the blood-brain barrier, so you have to give L-dopa. It reaches the corpus striatum. In the corpus striatum, the L-dopa is converted into dopamine, and Parkinsonism is rectified. So that is the mechanism of blood-brain barrier. That is the clinical significance of the blood-brain barrier. It allows selective permeability. It allows only certain things from the brain, from the blood into the brain. Does not allow. So similar to blood-brain barrier, blood-CSF barrier is also there. Similar to blood-brain barrier, there is a brain barrier between the blood in the capillaries and the choroid plexus and cerebrospinal fluid within the ventricles of the brain. That is cerebrospinal fluid barrier, blood-CSF barrier. Thank you very much for your patient learning. So at the end of this session, you must know what is the clinical significance of blood supply of the brain, how the arterial arcade of the base of the brain is formed by circular villi, what is the venous drainage of the brain, what is its clinical significance, what are the blood-brain barrier and what is its clinical significance, what is the blood CSF barrier and what is its importance. Now I want to tell you, extradural hemorrhage is most commonly caused by arteries. Subdural hemorrhage is most commonly caused by the veins, suprabridging veins. And intracerebral hemorrhage is most commonly caused by rupture of blood vessels. And rupture of blood vessel, Charcot artery. So, extradural hemorrhage is caused by rupture of blood vessels. Subdural hemorrhage is caused by rupture of veins. Intracerebral brain hemorrhage within the brain is caused by rupture of blood vessel, aneurysm, deficiency of tunica media. Thank you very much. Once again, I am commanding all of you to come and attend the class. Thank you very much, my dear students. Wish you have a best of luck. Thank you very much.